Hey guys, Chauncey Phillips here with my May 28th DVD update, where I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. Like I say, guys, enjoy these update videos. Definitely give this video a thumbs up. Leave me comments below what you guys saw, the titles I checked out this update, any titles coming up which you guys would like me to review for future updates, and some of the things you guys have picked up recently. Now, the first one I got from Shout Factory Scream Factory line. This is one that I remember first hearing about this one at Comic-Con. They were giving out posters and stuff for this movie. It's called The Funhouse Massacre. And it's basically about this reporter woman who goes to this insane asylum that's run by Robert Englund's character, and it's basically like the worst prisoners imaginable all together in this prison, all locked in this like super maximum security type prison. Like Clint Howard is in it, playing like this crazy taxidermist guy. The one guy is like a member of like one of those kind of crazy cults where everyone kills themselves. The one guy is also like this crazy dentist pulling teeth, and it's basically all these awful criminals together. This woman there goes to interview Robert Englund, talking to him about having all these prisoners there and what he thinks about having them all together like this, and if he thinks they all should be put to death and all that kind of stuff. Of course, though, this woman is actually a crazy person herself who's kind of infiltrated this place to basically break these people out of the nut house and let them all free, you know, killing Robert Englund's character and escaping off. And they all escape off to this local, like, haunted attraction, which is kind of like a haunted house type thing. And they all end up, you know, escaping there. And this was their plan, was to go in there and take over this haunted house and basically kill off the real employees. And they all the crazy people take over their, you know, jobs, dress as clowns, dress as like the haunters in there, you know, actually, you know, in the scenes where it's the dentist, they're actually pulling people's teeth. So basically, the people who, like the kids and everybody who's going in this haunted house, are actually, you know, seeing all these people getting killed, going, oh wow, this is crazy, this is some great effects. And it's actually, you know, people getting killed for real. Then they start finding that out little by little. It's about a group of these friends who all come together to go to this haunted attraction, who end up finding themselves trapped in there with all these crazy people trying to figure out how they're going to survive. The police are trying to figure out what they're going to do, and you know, and because they don't know if it's real or what, because they're hearing all these reports and stuff, and they don't know if it's like a prank or just people trying to draw up publicity for this haunted attraction. You know, there's a number of other cameos in this too. The one guy who, you know, is the voice of Rocko's Modern Life, you know, who does Rocco, you know, is also in Reno 911, he's in this movie. But a really cool, creepy, haunted house movie. I always love these kind of haunted house movies when people are getting killed in these kind of films like this. And a really fun one. Definitely would recommend checking this one out. Has on here a commentary track with the director, and then cast interviews, like video diaries, some little bit of on-set stuff that the production company put together where they shot this, and then a trailer for this as well. The next one from Lionsgate, and this was, you know, these air on the Discovery Channel. This is Shark Week 13th. Fantastic episodes. These, you know, Jaws encounters. Basically, Shark Week is something that's been going on for years and years. It's a big thing on Discovery Channel, where they have like a week where they have all these different news specials about sharks and shark attacks, shark encounters, and this is basically 13 episodes of them all together on one set. Because there's been a couple Shark Week ones, for, you know, in the past, but this is the newest one. It hasn't been a new one in quite a while though. But this one has on here some examples of some of the things that are on here, like I Escaped Jaws 2, which is basically encounters of people who escape from shark attacks, and it has on here Shark of Darkness, The Wrath of the Submarine, which is basically done in like reenactments about people who are in this boat that capsized, ended up getting, you know, attacked by these sharks and how they survive. Has on here zombie sharks, we're talking about like some of the kind of weirder type sharks you don't see as much, and then has alien sharks, like sharks that are really low in the ocean. Really pretty cool one. Like, if you guys are a fan of Shark Week, this is a great collection of them all together. Also has on here too, you know, digital copies of the movies as well. The next one from Disney is Disney's new one, Zootopia, which I really like this movie a lot. You know, saw this one in theaters as well. This is actually, though, you know, not one, though, that was done with Pixar. This is one of the ones they did solo, like with Wreck-It Ralph and a couple of the other ones in the past. But this is basically, though, about this little, you know, it's like kind of like the land of like a zoo-type world where all the animals all kind of live together in harmony. But then they kind of, in the past, had situations, though, where like the predators and the prey, like the ones like the smaller animals and the predators like the wolves and the dangerous animals in the past couldn't get along together, but now everyone's kind of living in harmony. But all of a sudden there's kind of these crazy type of attacks, and certain types of like the predators are starting going crazy. Something is happening to them, and a lot of them have been locked away into this kind of prison area. And there's this one little cop who's kind of determined to figure out exactly what is going on and try and solve this whole thing. And she ends up having the Fox character, who's, you know, voiced by Jason Jason Bateman kind of reluctantly helping her, trying to figure out and tracking down exactly what is going on, because they're kind of like uncovering exactly little by little what is going on here and what is causing this to happen. I really thought this was a fun movie. It's interesting though, you're seeing like more movies like this now coming out through other releasing companies. Like there's one coming out when like the animals are all together just like this when they're singing. So it's interesting when you see like a kind of a movie that really hits it off, and then you see other kind of movies that are kind of making, like doing the same type of thing. But this was a really, really good one. I thought this was one of my favorite Disney ones in a long time, animated wise. Subject of Disney too, I saw Alice in Wonderland, the new, the new one, the second film, and I actually thought that was actually pretty good. It had really mixed reviews, but I really did like that. This has on here though zoology, talking about in-depth look at the movie's characters, the origin of the animal tail follow the story's development from the beginning through the big story shift, the turnaround film upside down, deleted scenes on here, hidden Easter eggs, as well on this. But a really, really cool one. Really like this one a lot. Would definitely recommend you guys check this out. The next one from Universal, and this is the new Joe and Ethan Coen film, Hail Caesar. I saw this one in theaters as well. And I actually really like this movie. It's not going to be a movie that everyone really, really likes, but it's actually got really good reviews. But some people just have not liked this movie when I've looked at reviews and things like that. I, on the other hand, really thought this was pretty good. I like movies, though, too, that deal with making movies and old Hollywood and that kind of stuff, and that really was about this. And it's basically, though, about Josh Brolin, who kind of is the head and overseer of this production studios, where he basically is the person who tries to keep everything together, everything running smoothly. If there's an actress that's having problems or coming late to set or dealing with drugs or any kind of issues, he has to come in there and try and keep things running smoothly, figured out. And of course, though, he's having problems with George Clooney's character, who's like coming to set a kind of a mess and coming there drinking and kind of a whole mess. And George Clooney's character ends up getting kidnapped by these communists, end up taking him hostage, and they're kind of, trying to ransom him off. Josh Brolin's character is trying to deal with this ransom issue that's going on top of all these production issues on like the Scarlett Johansson movie, her character's movie, and all these other kind of issues that keep coming up, and he's trying to keep everything figured out. At the same time, he's trying to figure out how he's going to deal with this kidnapping that's going on, and if it's really real or what, what exactly all of it is that's going on. That's essentially what it is just him trying to keep the studio together. At the same time, they're trying to get him to leave his job to work for a new place. It has on here, though, the stars of the film, An Era of Glamour, so a number of different featurettes on this movie, but a really, really good one. I mean, like I said, I really like this one a lot, and it has on here the DVD and the digital copy of this as well. The next one, this is one, it's kind of hard to explain. I saw this one in theaters as well, and this is called 999. This has a really good cast in this. The one actor, I can never say his name, though. It's like Chiwetel Ejiofor. I can never say it right at all, but it has Casey Affleck, Anthony Mackie, Aaron Paul, Norman Reedus, Woody Harrelson, Kate Winslet. And basically, this is pretty much the way to explain this is about corrupt cops. And it's in the beginning of this movie, you see the group of these guys. They're all together trying to plan this rob. They're trying to. It's really tough to explain, but they're doing this robbery for Kate Winslet's character, who runs this kind of like mob kind of front company where they're doing this job for her. Of course, though, it doesn't go very well, and she wants them to, after they did this one big job for her, she comes back and says, I'm not going to pay you until you do this really big job for me. So they kind of get forced into doing this. They don't want to do it, and they end up killing one of the guys. She ends up killing them and trying to make a message saying, listen, you're going to do this. You have to do this for me. And so eventually they, agree to do this, and they have to come up with this plan of how in the world they're going to rob this certain place, and it deals with them doing something in cop terms when they have to do something. Because I don't want to ruin what it is, but they have to do something, and if they do that, all the cops will go to this place, and instead of dealing with coming to where they are so they can rob this bank. That's essentially what it is. And it's basically some of the guys are just like regular guys, some of the guys are cops, and there's all these kind of situations that come up too, like some of the cops cannot be seen around the one guy because that guy, they know they arrested him in the past, so if any of the cops saw him, they would know that something is up here. And it deals with all kinds of corruptions and stuff like that. Woody Harrelson's character is trying to track down the people who were involved in the robbery and what happened at the beginning of the movie, and he was actually really cool in this movie. He plays it real crazy, kind of drugged out kind of cop in this movie. Everybody has their own weird problems in this movie. It has on here, though, deleted scenes, Under the Gun. It's, like I said, a number of featurettes on this one as well, but definitely give this one a chance. I actually really like this one, but extremely hard to totally explain because it has so many different side plots going on throughout this whole movie. The next one, this is one I had never heard of before. It's called, well, it has Sam Rockwell, Anna Kendrick, and Tim Roth, and it's called Mr. Right. And it's an Anna Kendrick movie. It's basically kind of has the vibe of the movie The Killers, the Ashton Kutcher movie, and it's sort of has that kind of feeling to it. But it's Sam Rockwell's character, who's this like hired hitman who goes and like kills people for money and things like that, and the people who have hired him are basically coming after him and trying to kill him, and because of one reason or another. And he eventually, in the movie though, he finds meets Anna Kendrick's character, and they kind of start dating and start to like each other. But why this is all going on, people are kind of coming after him and like shooting at him, and he's kind of trying to cover up what's going on, going acting like they're dancing, all these kind of weird encounters and stuff to try and cover up that people are actually coming after to kill him. And they're like at a bar, and he's like, I'll be right back, because he sees one of the people who's coming after him. He just goes out into the alleyway and kills him. And then like he also says to her, like, I know that you have the abilities to do things, and he starts throwing knives at her, and she starts catching it. It takes a lot of strange and weird turns in this movie, but it's essentially like kind of like a love story about this at the same time, why people are trying to come after him and kill him, and it's kind of funny. I didn't absolutely love this movie, but it was interesting. Like I said, it kind of has the feel of Killers a little bit to it. The next one from Sony, and this is one I didn't get to see this one in theaters, and one that I missed. This is Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. And this is basically, I think I saw Pride and Prejudice, the one movie, I think 2005. I'm pretty sure I saw it. And this is basically the Pride and Prejudice story, which is like a classic novel. And they made a whole lot of different movies on the novel in the past, like TV series and films and stuff like that throughout the years. And this is, stars Lily James, who's in, the Cinderella remake, Disney Cinderella live action one. Sam Riley, Douglas Booth, Matt Smith, from I forget offhand what he's from, but from the Doctor Who, and Lena Headey. And it's basically, though, it's kind of like set in the Pride and Prejudice time, the 19th century England, where everybody's really proper and stuff. At the same time, there's zombies everywhere. And like in the beginning of the movie, they're talking about how it looked like zombies were all kind of walled off, and things were figured out with the zombies that were kind of attacking the countryside, and everyone had figured it out. But of course, little by little, the zombies start coming back, and it's about a group of these sisters who are in this kind of mansion life, and they basically hunt zombies, and the father is kind of okay with it, but the father is basically saying, though, you guys are going to have to get married off, because if I die, you're going to lose this whole castle and everything, because of one reason or another, they're not going to be able to keep it. So he's kind of determined at the same time. He doesn't want them to have to do this, but he really wants them to get married and kind of find love. And, Lily James' character starts liking this one guy, this Mr. Darcy character, and it's kind of about them kind of also having these kind of fights with each other, not really liking each other at the same time. The zombies are all set the backdrop of this love story, trying to get the girls married off. And that's pretty much what it is. There's some pretty good zombie effects in this one, though, because it only is PG-13, but for PG-13, has some pretty cool zombie kills and stuff in this. They really did a cool job with some of the zombies, like really out there. And like the zombies in this too are actually like, they're not like typical zombies, they're actually like real super smart zombies in some ways, because they set traps and stuff like that to try and catch the humans, the living. Like they set stuff like the one carriage flipped over, and the one's like, help me, and then they go to it, and then they eat them and kill them. I don't know, I kind of enjoyed this one. It was, like I said, it was a very different kind of take on zombie movies. There hasn't really been zombies in this kind of a setting with like prim and proper England countryside with all that. I kind of thought that was different, because it wasn't like the typical zombie thing you'd be used to. Has on here, though, deleted scenes, a gag reel, Miss Collins' Lino-rama, a number of other featurettes as well on this one. The next one, I'm not sure exactly how to say this one. It's like Amanalizia. I don't know for sure how to say this one, but it's from Charlie Kaufman, who did, Adaption, was a really good movie, and also was the writer of Being John Malkovich. And this, I think it's Amanalizia. It's a stop motion animation film. It was actually up for Best Picture for Best Animated Film. And this is basically done a super realistic, real life stop motion, which was kind of cool to see. Is stop motion animation, like clay animation, done, but not to be, otherworldly, like things like over the top, or done comedically and things like that. It's actually just like the way the world looks, but done in this kind of animation technique. But it's basically, though, about this businessman who goes to this hotel to try. He's planning to do a speech about like a motivational type speech. You see in the beginning of the movie, he had some kind of a fight with his wife and is really depressed. And the thing that's kind of interesting too is there's only like 3 people doing all the voices this entire thing. The one main guy, and then Tom Noonan, you know, who was in Manhunter, which I recently reviewed, and Last Action Hero, tons of movies. He does the voice of like all the women and all the men and everybody in it. It's kind of a cool vibe to that. And then Jennifer Jason Leigh does the voice of one woman who, in this hotel, the guy ends up meeting. And then when he meets her, it kind of like revitalizes his whole life, and he kind of starts to fall in love with this woman. It's a very interesting kind of thing. I actually really liked it, and I was really like fascinated with the animation stuff, because there were these crazy dream sequences and stuff like that were happening to him, and just some really interesting stuff. It has on here though, you know, some stuff about the making of how they put this movie together, but a really cool one. And if you like Charlie Kaufman's like writing style, I would definitely recommend this one. Like I said, I really like Adaption a lot, and it's got that kind of feel, because he always has that kind of quirky kind of writing style, and this was actually really pretty cool. The next one from Paramount as well. This is Michael Bay's new one called 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. And this is one of those things, you know, I had heard like some stuff about this on the news, but didn't know a whole ton about this. And this is basically, though, a super, I'm going to come in and say, though, it's super, like, realistic on the depiction of war and, like, the violence. Like, it almost is like, it's like goes really far with like the violence. That was the only thing I was like, wow, they were really going with some of the stuff, like, man, it was like really out there with some of the gore and stuff like that too. But I mean, it really was supposed to be exactly how it was, because, you know, it's all based on true account story and what had really happened. But it was really insane though, just some of like what was happening and stuff, because it was just sad too, because you knew that this stuff really happened. But, you know, it's basically, I guess the way to explain this is in Benghazi, it's like this town, this area where it was super war-torn and really, you know, super dangerous. And the U.S. had like a base kind of thing there, where they were kind of like the UN or something like that, or the, I don't know exactly what it was, but they kind of were guarding this kind of like mansion, but then this mansion area kind of gotten taken over by these, you know, these guys who came in there to kill everybody in there, and the other guys there who are kind of watching over it too, you have to go in there and try and rescue the people in there, because they're getting kind of like smoked down and attacked by all this stuff. So they basically go over there. The one main guy though is from The Office. Like, what is his name? Is you know, John Krasinski, I think, you know, who's from The Office and a number of other things. And it's basically him there trying to get over there and try and save these people. And that's essentially what it is, to explain it the best I can. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with the whole case of all of what really happened, though, to explain it to you very well. But it has on here some making-ofs on this movie, stuff about preparing for this movie. But really, really well-made film, though. The next one is Zoolander 2, and this is the Magnum edition. And this is like in an unrated edition. I couldn't say for certain what was the main differences with this one. To be honest, I wasn't totally sure, because I didn't really remember everything to say exactly what was totally different. This is basically the second Zoolander film. I really loved the first movie a lot. And this movie actually has had some mixed reviews, but I actually thought it was a fun movie. I mean, to me, I think it was cool to see Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson and Will Ferrell come back and do these characters again. And I thought they did a good job in this. And it was basically them going to basically Fashion Week. They get invited there, and you kind of get the kind of feeling like both of them have kind of come back, trying to get back into swing of things, but they're kind of over, and their time is pretty much faded. And Will Ferrell's kind of vanished because in the beginning of the movie, the school that he built in the end of the first movie for the orphans has kind of fallen down, and his wife ended up dying in that building, so he's really depressed. But he gets this letter to come back to Fashion Week, and, you know, and he basically goes there and ends up meeting with Owen Wilson's character, who doesn't really want to see it all anymore. So they have all these kind of issues with each other, and they're basically kind of getting trolled there. And you see there's something really weird about why they've been invited there, and other models and stuff like that, and celebrities have been getting killed off, like Justin Bieber gets killed and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of them trying to figure out exactly what's happening to all the models and stuff like that, and who's behind all of this. Like I said, I thought this was a fun movie. I thought it had some funny, like, inside jokes about, like, the fashion industry, and they had, especially at the end, some of the people they had for cameo-wise and stuff, I thought was really pretty cool. And there was some really ridiculous, like, cameo orgy scenes with, like, who was in the orgies and stuff like that. I don't know. I had a fun time with this one. Like, again, though, I really liked the first movie a lot as well. And has on here, though, Zoolander Legacy, Go Big or Go Home, about the man who's created Zoolander. Like I said, though, I would definitely recommend recommend checking this one out. I thought it was a fun movie. The next one, which is very cool, this one finally has a Blu-ray release, and this is, Roots, the original series. This is actually coming back, I think, on A&E in like a couple weeks in a whole new series, which will be interesting to see how they do it now. And this is a show, too, that I always feel like a lot of people forget, that, like, LeVar Burton was, like, the star of this, because, like, I think a lot of people think of LeVar, at least me, I've always thought of him mainly from, Reading Rainbow and Star Trek, but he was actually on this show in this series as the lead. A lot of other people are in this. O.J. Simpson was in this movie back when he was acting. He also was in like the Naked Gun films, but really good performance-wise in this movie. And this is basically, though, about LeVar Burton's character, Kunta Kinte, who has been taken as a slave from Africa, and it's kind of taken to America, and all the terrible stuff that he goes through, and eventually what ends up happening to him, but it's kind of all through his life, when he gets taken in, and it's a very, very sad series, but really, really well done. Has on here, though, a number of different features on this one, and a new booklet in here about, with pictures and things like that about the series. And this was also a seriously highly viewed series when this was on. I think it had like 40-some million or something like that. Or, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see the new one, how it is compared to this. And they also did another one, I think, too, like in the 80s or so. I'm not 100% certain on when the other one was, but I know there was another one after this one, though. But definitely would recommend checking this out. Great series. Looks great on Blu-ray as well. The next one, this is one I had never seen the first season, but I, started watching this, and it's actually very funny. And it's one of those things, though, to take into account, though, like, if you, like this is one of those things I could see, like, a kid picking up in a store and going, I want to get this, and, like, then they put it on, they're like, oh, this is very adult, because this is, like an MA show, and this is also uncensored, so it's very, very dirty, which I actually thought was a really funny show called Rick and Morty, and this is the second season of the show. It's basically about this, like, crazy professor and his, like, grandson, and it's basically, though, this professor's kind of like a Doc Brown in Back to the Future, and he's always making these crazy inventions. And in the first episode, he made this, like, time machine, and the time machine gets everything all screwed up, and the timelines get screwed up, and there's, like, 2 of them, and they have to try and figure out how to fix it, because the timeline has become all screwed up, and there's all these kind of crazy, weird characters in this show. Really fun show, like I said. I didn't know too much at all about this going into this one, but it was a really funny, like, kind of had the feeling of like regular show and those kind of things, but like way more of like an R-rated version of those kind of ones. Like I said, keep in mind this is definitely an R-rated type show for language and stuff. But like I said, I feel like a kid could pick this up and go, oh yeah, and you wouldn't know. At least I wouldn't think you would. But it was really funny. It has on here, though, all 10 episodes, animatics for every episode, deleted animated sketches, featurettes, and commentary tracks on these. And the next one from Anchor Bay is One More Time. This is a film with Christopher Walken and Amber Heard. Amber Heard basically plays this rocker girl who basically needs a place to stay because she got kicked out of where she was living, and she ends up having to move back in with her father, played by Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken is like this kind of jazz, like lounge kind of singer, and he had some really big hits in the past and really hasn't had anything in a while, and he's really trying to plan his new comeback with this new music that he's doing. And they're kind of coming back together, and they both have had like strained relationships in the past and really haven't gotten along, so they're coming back together, and they're having all kinds of bickering and fights, and they have all kinds of drama and baggage from the past, and it's kind of them trying to work things out and trying to live together as well. And at the same time, while she's trying to figure out her life, dealing with it, she has alcohol problems and all these kind of issues, on top of dealing with her relationship with her father, on top of her father, Chris Walken, trying to figure out how to get his career going, if he's going to be able to come back and actually make a return. So that's essentially what this one is. The next one, this is a fun movie. This is from Synapse, and I would say going into this, definitely watch the version of this that has the commentary track. This is a movie called Sorceress, directed by Jim Wynorski, but who did Chopping Mall and Bar Wench Project and a number of different movies. This is called Sorceress, and like I said, though, the commentary track is basically recorded recently with the director, and Tom Savini, who had nothing to do with this movie, but Tom Savini was at the convention where they recorded this, and he's kind of watching it for the very first time. He's never seen the movie before, and it's like him explaining the movie to Tom Savini, and Tom Savini's like, "Why are they naked?" And he's like, "Is this an adult film?" He's like, "This is like," and he's kind of talking trash and saying weird stuff to him the whole time, saying, "This looks like the kind of thing they play on HBO at 3 o'clock in the morning, and why is there all this nudity and what is this about, and then like him trying to explain the plot to him and everything. I thought it was great, but it's basically though Julia Strain is this kind of witch character who her husband wants to, and I found out more of the plot from listening to this commentary because I didn't pick up on some of this, but he basically though wants to get this job, and the guy who's in line to get it, she basically puts a curse on him, so he drives off this cliff and ends up getting injured and put in a wheelchair. And his wife is played by Linda Blair. The other thing, too, is like, how'd they get Linda Blair to do this movie? It was like one of those things you're really wondering that. But it's basically, though, kind of all these weird situations that are happening, and Linda Blair tries to get back at Julia Strain's character, even though she's dead. And it's kind of like trying to get revenge on her husband. It's a whole weird story, and it's very peculiar, but the commentary on this, like I said, him explaining this to Thompson, he seriously makes this movie, and it was kind of like a riff tracks with him. I thought it was amazing, to be honest. Like, you have to listen to this commentary track. It was so good on here. But it has on here a new 2K transfer, and then another commentary track with just Jim Wynorski himself. And it also looks very good though too. The next one from E1 is a movie called Dirty Lies, which has Scout Taylor Compton in this one, and it's basically the one guy in this was from I think We're the Millers, and I think he was in one of the other ones when he's like one of the Adam Sandler movies when he's like Summer. I can't remember what it was. Grown Ups 2, I think. This movie's called Dirty Lies, and it's basically though about this guy, Mark Young, who is kind of works as like a PA on the set, and he kind of works like on a film set, and he kind of does like the assistant, and he does stuff for the director and things like that, and he's sent to pick up this expensive diamond necklace for the director's wife, and he kind of has to hold on to it for him and keep it till he sees him. But then he takes back to the house where he lives with these two other guys, this one who's a painter, artist kind of type, and Scout Compton's character, and another woman who's like this actress, and they all have their own problems. Like Scout Compton's is this musician, and she's getting kicked off of her label because she's not selling any records, and then the other woman is trying to get her career going acting wise, and they have all these kind of problems. Of course, though, he brings this necklace to the house, and then immediately people find out about this necklace, and then these people come in there to try and rob and steal the necklace. The necklace has gone missing, so it's kind of like, where is this necklace? So it's all taking place in what happens that night, this huge situation of this missing necklace and people coming after him. And it's got all these kind of twists that some of the people are against him, and what is going on and who's behind this whole thing. I thought this was actually a pretty good film. Like I said, I really want to see this mainly for Scout Compton though. And the next one from E1 as well is a movie called The Offering, and this is basically the director of I can't remember, he did something called I think The Maid he did, and this originally had a different title, I think The Haunting of Something, and it's basically though about this woman who goes to, I think she goes to Singapore, who basically her sister has died there, and she doesn't know what happened and why this has happened, so she goes there to try and figure out exactly what has happened to her sister. And of course, so she gets there, and all these kind of weird things happen. She starts discovering from the sister's family, for her daughter and the husband, that there's something supernatural going on with the sister's death, and she's trying to figure out exactly what has happened and what has caused that, because as soon as she gets there, weird things start to happen to her, and weird things start to happen to the family there. And it also deals with these priests who are kind of investigating spirit phenomenons, and it kind of ties in with them, with her as well. But it was pretty cool, creepy kind of movie. Like I said, I think I was reading it was one of the first American-made films produced by this company in Singapore, something like that. I was reading something about that, but a pretty cool, creepy kind of haunted kind of possession kind of film. The next one from Mill Creek. This is one, I remember always seeing the covers to this, and I think I saw this when I was a little kid, and it's called The 500 Fingers of Dr. T, and this is a early Dr. Seuss story. And I think this was he wrote this one, so I don't know if this was ever a book or not, but it's like I said, The 500 Fingers of Dr. T, and it's about this kid who is playing the piano, and the mother is really wants him to be good at playing the piano, but he's kind of bored by the whole thing, and the teacher is really mean to him, and kind of really giving him all kinds of crap and all kinds of problems with trying to, learn how to play the piano, and he ends up falling asleep there. And then he has this dream kind of taken to this reality, this world of, where there's all these kind of weird type of characters, and the music teacher that he doesn't like is there, kind of is the ruler of this world, and the mother is there, and it's all these strange characters, these weird bearded bearded people, and it's definitely has the Dr. Seuss kind of vibe. But it's interesting to see too, because they built these elaborate, crazy sets that are like really hard to explain, but they're also like these super plain sets, like they're like super plain walls and stuff. And I'm like, when you think about it, I'm like, why did they make the sets so plain? Because they're cool, like elaborate big sets, but they're like really, really plain sets. And that's the only thing that was kind of odd about it. Like, I feel like if they did this movie now, it would be really more out there with like the looks. It had the feel of like Santa Claus Conquers the Martians with the sets and stuff. If you know that movie, you know what I'm talking about with that kind of look. And the next one from Image Entertainment is Dread Central Presents Monsterland. They also made Zombie World, which was another anthology one, but this is basically an anthology film. It's like, it starts in the beginning of the movie, this guy, you know, escaping from all these zombies, ends up running into this movie theater to try and hide out, and there's dead zombies everywhere, and they're playing movies in there. So he sits down to watch them, and it's basically, you know, film after film of these different types of horror stories. One of them was about like these people swimming in a lake, and then they're getting like attacked and killed by this kind of weird monster, and there's crazy scenes of like this crazy blood flying out of the ocean. That one kind of almost felt like it was almost like a pitch for like a real, like to be a feature film, because I felt like that segment really could have been a whole movie, because it like almost felt like the end of a movie when like, oh, like what happens to the kids or something. It kind of had this scene of like The Raft and Creepshow 2, and there was this one too about this weird like this weird kind of like a German type one, like super like surreal with this weird type character and like these bugs and stuff like that going on, like attacking the family and possessing them, all these weird ones. Another one I like that the guy I know, Graham Denman, directed, which was one of my favorite ones on here, which was this crazy guy knocks on the door of this doctor's house at night. You know, there's this dentist saying, "You need to pull my teeth now," because he's like you know, obsessed with the idea, thinking that he's a vampire, and you know, he needs to pull his teeth, and it's kind of like what ends up happening with this. But as I said, this is essentially, though, you know, a bunch of different anthology stories from different directors all cut together, you know, why this guy is watching in the movies and back and forth to them. But I actually thought this was actually a pretty cool one, and some actually really pretty good segments on this one as well. The next one, this is one I actually just finished watching, and this is the sequel to Dolomite, and this is, you know, technically Dolomite 2, The Human Tornado, and this is probably one of the most funniest stuff, some of the funny stuff I've seen in a long time. Like, they're, like, especially like the stuff, the kind of, just the stuff when they're getting away in the beginning of the movie, and some of the kind of stand-up that he's doing, because he's kind of like picking people apart, and it almost felt like it was real, what he was saying to these people. And it's, you know, Rudy Ray Moore as the Human Tornado, and this movie was really good. It's, like I said, it's a sequel to Dolomite. It's a blaxploitation film, and it's basically this guy who like works at this comedy club. In the beginning of this movie, though, these like really racist like sheriffs and cops come to this mansion where Dolomite is with all these different people, and Dolomite is actually sleeping with the sheriff's wife, and they catch him there, and they end up chasing him out, and him and his friends all get away, and, you know, end up having to kill them along the way. And it's like these crazy stuff of them going on this road trip to get to LA, to where the comedy club is, and like all these kind of things that happen along the way, just these crazy encounters. I don't know, it was just a really, really fun movie. It has on here, though, the making of Dolomite, commentary track with Rudy Ray Moore's biographer, interviews with the director on here. They have the German dub version of this movie, but looks great. You know, Vinegar Syndrome always does an outstanding job in their transfers, but a really cool one. I also really like the original artwork on this one as well, like a really great cover. I always remember this on a lot of the you know, trailer reels and stuff, when they, you know, play like crazy trailers and stuff like that. And the last one from Vinegar Syndrome as well is The Psychotic Killer, and this is another one I remember seeing the different cover for this one more. This image I always remembered seeing, and this one is basically this one had a lot of cool shots of old Hollywood and stuff in it too, but this is basically this guy who's in this insane asylum for killing his wife, and he's basically saying to people, you know, he didn't do it, and, you know, he's like really, you know, angry about being stuck in there, and he ends up meeting this other criminal who, you know, in this nut house, who actually did kill somebody, and he's saying like, oh, I'm gonna find the real people when, you know, they killed your wife. I mean, not killed your wife, killed your mother. What am I saying? Killed your mother, because basically, like, this guy's mother was killed, but then he ended up getting blamed for it. And the guy's basically like, I'm going to find the person that killed your mother when I'm dead. after I find the person that did something to me. So he's basically like, it deals with kind of this weird stuff. The guy's doing this like this ritual where he can like leave his body. Of course, that guy he becomes friends with ends up jumping off this thing and killing somebody, but something ends up happening, and the guy who's killed his mother, or said he didn't kill his mother, ends up getting released from jail. And as soon as he gets out of jail, he ends up having the gift, because he got the necklace from this like guy with the ritual, to basically be able to leave his body and then like kill people and stuff like that. It's some crazy death scenes, and there's even this scene too, like on this when they were like dropped this thing on this guy on the construction site while he's dancing. Is really great. And the one guy too who was from Eaten Alive was in this one too, playing the butcher. His scene was great. It was like one of my favorite scenes next to that scene on the construction site. Because I knew that guy from something. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a guy from Eaten Alive. But this one has on here too a brand new 2K transfer in here, a featurette on this movie, and a number of other, you know, trailer spots and things like that for this movie. But a really cool one. Like I said, I had never seen before, but I had never seen the cover for that though. But anyway though, guys, that's all for this DVD update video. Thanks again for watching and subscribing. I'll see you guys later. Bye.